Okay guys, I'm going to make a video on how to deal with dog diarrhea. This is something that can happen. It happens to a lot of us. This could be due to a diet change. This could be due to the dog not feeling well. Or it could be due to stress. Changing the environment could give the dog massive diarrhea. Now, the problem with diarrhea is if it persists, it could inflame the colon, which the more it gets inflamed, the more the diarrhea persists. And now you have inflammation of the colon, you have diarrhea, you have now the potential for the dog to get even more ill. And now this could potentially turn into a life-threatening situation. There are some things that you can do by yourself without contacting a vet, without taking your dog to the vet, that could be very life-saving. Now, this video is not supposed to replace the advice from your vet. It's not supposed to diagnose or treat anything for you. You know your dog better than I do, and you're gonna have to treat your dog according to what you think is best. So the most recent case of this that we had was with one of the dogs that is ours now that had parvo. Now, if you don't know much about parvo, what parvo does, it affects the digestive system. So what it does is it attacks it. It makes it so the dog has nausea. It makes it so the dog has really loose stool. So what happens is the dog will get dehydrated because they're nauseous. Now they can't even drink or eat, and that's how they end up dying or potentially getting so ill to the point of death. So we took this puppy to the vet. She was diagnosed with parvo, and now we had to, deal with this. Now, prior to us taking her to the vet, we were already doing some things because we didn't know if it was parvo. We just knew that this dog was dehydrated. She was very lethargic. She had really bad diarrhea, and she didn't want to eat or drink anything. So here are a few things that you can do. Again, you should take your dog to the vet if you have any doubts. But this video is going to help you on what you can do before you take your dog to the vet. Or if for whatever reason taking your dog to the vet is not an option, right? Maybe it happened over the holidays. Maybe it happened after hours. Whatever the case may be, there are some things you can do. Diarrhea will dehydrate the dog. So a lot of diarrhea equals a lot of dehydration. And if your dog is willing to drink, definitely let him drink. And give him some fluids. So this is an electrolyte drink. You could use whatever you want. Do not use Gatorade. Don't use any of the flavored electrolyte drinks. Use something that is going to be plain. But if your dog is not drinking, then that's when this right here comes in handy. When this dog came to us, she was very ill, very dehydrated, a lot of diarrhea, and she didn't want to drink anything. So naturally, this dog was in really bad shape before we took her to the vet. So what we had to do then is we had to force some fluids into her system. Now, there's a couple of ways to do this. Some people will do it subcutaneously. Basically, they'll inject the fluid into the dog's skin. I did not feel comfortable doing that, so what I just did is I just forced the fluids into her mouth. So you just fill it up a little bit at a time, maybe a couple of teaspoons, a couple of tablespoons at a time, and give it to them every 20 minutes or so. You fill it with water, or the electrolyte drink, which is probably what you should be doing, or mix the electrolyte drink with water, fill it up, get rid of all the bubbles, open their throat, and just squirt it right into their throats. And now you're forcing fluids into their system. So this really helped out just to keep the dog hydrated. Now that you are keeping the dog hydrated, you have to deal with the diarrhea. Now, if you go to your vet, what the vet's going to do is they're going to prescribe your dog some sort of antibiotic. The most common antibiotic that they're going to give your dog is going to be metronidazole. So metronidazole, or Metro for short, is a very common antibiotic that veterinarians will give dogs for a number of things, for diarrhea, for deep cuts, wounds. It does a really good job at addressing that. So the antibiotics will be great. This is one of the things that was prescribed to us by the vet, and we did that. So we were forcing fluids into this dog. We were giving her the antibiotics, and as we gave her the antibiotics, We also had to feed her some very bland food. Bland food meaning very, very well cooked rice, very almost soggy. Chicken, very, very lean chicken. Some people also use sweet potatoes. We use rice, chicken, and canned pumpkin that's also very nice and bland. And doing this with a combination of electrolytes and water and the antibiotics really helped this dog out. This is something that you can do too, kind of on your own, except for you don't have access to antibiotics. Now here's what you can do, because this is what happened to us with this dog. This dog was doing great. This is also a puppy, so it's very sensitive already. And what happened with the puppy is she started to do well. She started to get her appetite back after a few days. She started to drink on her own after a couple of days. And now she's getting hydrated. She's coming back to normal. She's starting to gain some weight. But now we're running out of antibiotics. So we run out of antibiotics. And now, she's got really nice stool. But when we're out of the antibiotics, what happens is her stool goes back to being soft. She goes back to having diarrhea. So now we're back on the same boat. Right now we have this dog that has bad diarrhea because we run out of antibiotics. So you might say, well, let's just take the dog back to the vet and let's get more antibiotics. And that might be something that you can do for sure. But we decided to go a different route. We've been down this road before with diarrhea, so this is something that we have a little bit of experience with. I had this happen, something very similar to this happened to my other dog, minus the parvo, but he had a really, really bad colon infection that gave him extreme diarrhea for a very long time, and it was constant antibiotics and it just was not working out. So one thing that we found out, this is a nice probiotic. So antibiotics are going to do great at addressing the infection, but the antibiotics are also going to kill the good bacteria in your dog's stomach. If you're not familiar with the proper balance of bacteria and enzymes in your stomach that are necessary to digest food and have a healthy digestive system, it's something that you might want to look into. It's very applicable to humans as well as animals. And that's the thing that happens with dogs and humans. If you take antibiotics constantly, it will keep killing the good bacteria in your stomach, which you need. So this was happening obviously, and we went this route. We went to the probiotic route, right? So we bought a probiotic. This is a pre and probiotic mix. This is something I bought at a feed store, Tractor Supply. So Tractor Supply had this. You can get a much more potent probiotic on Amazon and other stores. And your vets, a lot of vets carry them as well. They're specifically made for dogs, and they have a lot of good bacteria. But the one that I got at Tractor Supply, it's actually not bad. It's pretty decent. This is more for multiple species, but it is applicable to dogs as well. You can use this on horses, swine, sheep, goats, and you could also use it on dogs. So this is the route we went, and it started to help out, but it wasn't quite fully helping out. So we had to keep the dog on the probiotics, but we also had to keep feeding her that nice bland food. And then she kind of reverted back a little bit to that soft stool. We started to see her getting a little bit worse, so now we're starting to get a little bit concerned. And Tractor Supply, the feed store, came to the rescue. This is also something you can get at the feed store. It's kaolin, I believe I'm probably butchering, but kaolin and pectin. And what it is it's a anti-diarrhea solution. It's basically Pepto-Bismol, but for animal grade Pepto-Bismol. Again, this is used in multiple species, also applicable to dogs. And it only has 2 ingredients. That's what I really liked about this. It only has these 2 ingredients. It doesn't have sweeteners. It doesn't have anything crazy like your human grade anti-diarrhea medicine has. Human grade anti-diarrhea medicine has a lot of extra crap in it that is probably not good for your dog. So Pepto-Bismol, it's got a lot of sweeteners, a lot of extra stuff that your dog does not need that could potentially make your dog even worse. So getting this from the feed store really helped out. So we were feeding this to her with the bland food and the probiotics, and her diarrhea went completely away. So now this was giving her time to heal. This was addressing the loose stool, which was, giving her colon a little bit of time to heal. The probiotics were repopulating the healthy bacteria in her gut, in her digestive system. And obviously the water and the electrolytes were also helping her stay hydrated. These three things, it was the kaolin pectin, the electrolyte water, and the probiotics that really helped out. Now this is something that is super easy to get. The probiotics, the anti-diarrhea solution, these are things that you can get at a feed store. It's not something you're going to find at Walmart, not something you're going to find at Target. This is something you're going to find at a feed store. So you might not have a feed store available near you, but if you do, they can be great lifesavers, at least until you get medical attention for your dog. I'm gonna make a video on how to deal with